I'm on record saying that these right here, the Status Pro X earbuds, are the best wireless earbuds currently on the market in terms of sound quality. And well, they did it again, because they just released this right here, the Pro X GoldenSound edition, made in collaboration with GoldenSound, a super knowledgeable British audio geek who was given a task of improving the already amazing Pro X's. And I was actually one of the first in the world to try them out at the official launch event in London. Though to be fair, at first they didn't really, well, look too different, right? Apart from just the colour. When you unbox them, it's pretty much all the same stuff, and you get all of the same paperwork, all of the same ear tips, etc, etc. So what is different about these then that makes these even better than the originals? Well, it all comes down to tuning. They went above and beyond actually testing what the human ear is like, what it can actually hear, but also how they measured the response of the earbuds. However, Cameron will probably explain this much better than I ever could, so I asked him to help me out.
Hi, I'm Cameron, aka GoldenSound, and I've been asked to talk a little bit about some of the challenges with measuring headphones and figuring out what they're actually doing. Even if you have something like this, a measurement fixture which simulates the human head and ear, the problem is that you don't actually know what neutral sound should look like on something like that. This is a very rough approximation of what the head and ears are actually doing. And so if you want to figure out exactly how a headphone is behaving, you need to figure out exactly what the ear is doing. In fact, we worked with Imperial College London to use their turret lab to basically measure how sound, true neutral sound, coming from every single direction in a full 360-degree sphere is modified by our head, ears, and ear canals by the time it reaches our eardrum. If you do that and you profile exactly how either my own head or a measurement fixture is behaving, you can then take your head and ears out of the equation and see just what the headphone is doing. And then you can tune it to behave like actual neutral sound really behaves for your head and ears, not just an approximation of it. So we use the Brawling Care 5128 because as an in-ear product, it's really important that we have a realistic ear canal. Then we're able to tune things to a neutral baseline, which is this dotted line here, and then apply some knowledge from existing research like Harman to make sure that things like the bass, for example, are where listeners actually prefer. Because we know that people don't actually want perfectly neutral bass. They do actually want a little bit more. And people generally prefer slightly less treble than is perfectly neutral.
So this right here is the result of all of that research, a version of the Pro X's that have what is as close to neutral sound as possible. Pretty much the only place it deviates from that is in the bass, because they just found that, well, most people prefer having more bass than neutral. Surprise, surprise, I know. In addition, because of how specific the tuning is in these, you don't even get the option to equalize them via the Status app, unlike the regular ones. However, if your music app just supports EQ from there, well, odds are you'll just be using that anyway. And yes, I have no idea how it's possible, but it does actually make what's already like the best sounding earbuds I've ever tried sound even better. Everything is much cleaner across the whole spectrum, especially the vocals seem to have gotten the best of this treatment in my experience with the GoldenSound edition thus far. However, here's the thing, all of that is pretty much just software. There's no real hardware difference between these and the originals. So depending on how cynical you are, well, that kind of depends on what your opinion is on this product. Given how they're charging $280 for these, or $30 more than the regular Pro X's. And the kicker is you can actually go into the Status app and turn the tuning on these to the original tuning. However, you can't go to the original Pro X's and then apply the GoldenSound tuning. And as far as I can tell, that is completely arbitrary, because again, there are no real hardware differences between the two. And I gotta really feel for people who just like saved up a bunch of money to try and get themselves a pair of the Pro X's, and then this thing comes out and they're just locked out of getting the much better audio that these offer, despite it being pretty much the same product but with some gold paint on it. And as a very cynical person, I mean, yeah, it is annoying, but they just sound so good, man. So I want to hear your thoughts down in the comments below. Do you think it's worth the extra $30? Were you one of those people who just bought some Pro X's and really wish that you just held out for these ones instead? Well, again, let me know all of that down in the comments below, and make sure to check out our Patreon as well, because it's certainly much cheaper than these earbuds. Plus, huge thanks to Gavin Burns, Justin Rage, Electronic, Balash Roken, Sudan, Mixon, Machine, Allcroft, and Mason Magruder. But anyway, that's all it. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, then remember to subscribe, like, whatever, and I'll see you all in whatever I make next. Goodbye, everyone. Goodbye.